she did a little bit of pre-work October to January, but from January to June, I think that she read the entire Harry Potter series.
Wow.
She read
5 other medium, almost big Harry Potter books.
Yeah, she's reading all of the classics. And something that we thought was impossible for her is now effortless.
Yeah.
And we're really grateful.
Good afternoon. It's time for another episode of Dyslexia Success Stories, which are one of my favorite podcasts to do, because in this podcast, we get to talk to families, students, and our students are all ages. We have some students who are 7. Believe it or not, we have some students who are 70. And today we've got a student who's a teenager who's going to talk to us about her learning difficulties, and she's going to be on with her mom. So Mrs. Anderson and Parrish, her daughter, are going to talk to us about homeschooling, how you pick up on what your child is struggling with, how you try the things you was told to try that should help, might help, kind of help, didn't help, and then what happened when we got to what we call an evidence-based program that's been scientifically tested and solidly proven to be highly effective. So let me introduce you to Mrs. Anderson and Parrish. Welcome to Dyslexia Success Stories.
Hi, thanks for having us on today.
My pleasure. So Parrish, you're 13 now, right?
Yep.
Okay, and so from your perspective, before we let Mom give us all the gory details, like what was school like for you from your earliest memory? What do you think of remembering? Because you're homeschooled, so it's right there and you're sitting next to your teacher. And so what, from how you were learning and what you were accomplishing, what was easy, what was hard that you can remember right now?
From before I started the program, I feel like I had the worst time remembering.
There we go. Sorry, I had a small glitch. So all I heard you say is you had a time remembering. I'm not sure if it's on my side or your side, but what is stated again?
A hard time, what we were working on right then for like math and stuff, and hard time remembering how anything worked. And that was one thing we put off, but also another thing we were working on a lot was reading.
Yeah.
A hard time with that, or writing.
And tell me more about that. What was hard about reading for you? What do you remember, your earliest memory of trying to learn how to read? What does that think of, or what does that trigger for your memories?
It was just I feel like it was just distracting, and I also had like of just not wanting to, like very upset about wanting to read or do it, because had some hard times with just before then,
right,
concentrating and not having an upset room because we were still figuring it out.
Gotcha. And what part of it was hard? Was it the letters that was hard? Was it the actually converting the letters into sounds that was hard? Was it memorizing the words that you can't send out, or like all of the above?
All of the above, mostly.
That's got to be very unpleasant, because it sounded like you weren't getting any positives, any success. And did Mom look exasperated at times to you? Could you see that expression on Mom's face?
Well, we didn't know
until
we figured out. So that's why, like, for all those years, we couldn't figure out why I couldn't remember or figure these out things clearly.
Gotcha. And Mom, what are your thoughts about this? What Parrish is thinking of, remembering, and recalling?
Yeah, no, we come from a family of readers, and so that our children didn't read was very confusing. It was, my husband struggled a lot with reading as a child. We're finding out now that he was probably dyslexic, you know.
Parrish, so Parrish, who do you get the blame?
Right. So honestly,
my dad, but
and who does he get the blame?
Not her at all. And so
grandma and grandpa. It's like the family tree, right?
Right, right.
Somebody else has the genetics, and my kids get to blame me. So let's not to put that on the hook there, but
yeah. So we, we really do try to, as a family, we've really blended an artistic and an academic family, and so we really, I'm grateful for those times, because we really were able to kind of focus a little bit less on academics, and we focused a little bit more on having an artistic life, while trying to readdress this academic learning. We were frustrated for a few years, and it was very confusing. We tried to hold that on our end and not show that as much to Parrish and our children. It's not their job to eat that frustration. And it is really natural, right? When you go through the alphabet and you work really hard for hours just to do the alphabet and come back the next day, and it's none of that information is retained. And so it was a daily.
Sorry to interrupt. Tell me, where is Parrish in the family tree? She's the oldest? She's
I
middle?
am the youngest.
She's
My
the-
brother is 1 year older than me. I have no other siblings.
Gotcha. So then you've already done this before. You've already seen a kid learn how to read, and mom, and it was pretty effortless to teach the older brother how to read.
Well, we did have some difficulties with him as well, but
Okay.
they weren't as pronounced. And his recall on all of the other things, he's very adept at math concepts.
Okay.
Parrish is also adept at math concepts.
I don't.
And then sometimes the execution of it gets a little bit lost. She has a lot of great strengths. She's obviously very intelligent, very artistic, and very, 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 very capable. So these gaps, right, in her neurological processing just didn't make sense in the whole. She had a little bit hard time speaking when she was younger. And so I know a lot of these things we're learning as we go, that they go along together.
Right.
But yeah, I think specifically the hardest thing for us was the repetition and where our son would pick up with 10 to 20 times of instruction. Her number, we could never find what the number was of repetition before that synapse just laid down, because it just didn't seem to exist.
And then that puts a challenge on you, Mom, because you're like, I'm doing what worked before, and now you're reading even more. But tell us about, so what was the journey? Where did you go to? When did you find out this term called dyslexia?
It wasn't until a little bit later, just a few years ago, we had a homeschool specialist come in who specializes here locally in dyslexia and other.
We had
other
other
issues.
programs just trying to teach us more, but then when we went for this person,
Yeah, we had tried phonographics and a few other methods to outside. We really did want to seek outside help when we realized, hey, what we're doing isn't working. Let's see what else we can do. And it was suggested to us by a homeschool tutor here in our town locally, your program. And but she gave us so much information, and really understanding that the piece of the number of times that it would take to learn a particular thing was something that was unique to and very common. I'm not sure what the numbers are in people who have dyslexia. So it really changed our dynamic, right? So when she came to us and said, is this a K or an R? We didn't kind of have this look on our face. We were like, oh, babe, it's a K. And if you want to come back to me again tomorrow and ask me tomorrow, ask me again.
Keep reviewing.
You need. Yeah. So it really changed our family dynamic, having an understanding of what this was, to be really positive and accepting. And we don't know what the path is that's going to work, but we're committed to continuing to work it out and find it.
Right.
it really helped just learning that, oh, I need something different, because if I try learning this, it's like it stuck most of my years of
Right.
figure it out.
Yep. Well, and here's the unique piece, because I'm a brain scientist, PhD neuropsychologist, but I trained in multiple domains. I trained in pediatric brain development. I trained in adult brain development, and I trained in brain injury. What happens if someone gets brain damage from a stroke or from a head injury, or they have to have a brain surgery and they have to take out part of the brain to stop seizures? There's all kinds of things that happen that can damage the brain. How do you rebuild those reading skills? And then I went one step further and I did fMRI brain imaging training as well. In fact, my dissertation was an fMRI study of adults who had dyslexia versus adults who did not, looking at the differences in the patterns of activity. And so from that background of the sciences, the program that we've done with Parrish is basically what we think the brain typically does when you don't have dyslexia. So people have misconstrued what's going on. They're like, hey, we need to find a different way to teach her. It's like, we're actually not using a different way. We're just very explicitly going levels below where most programs start. And I have to ask Parrish, they showed you these crazy looking mouth pictures. Did you think you'd gone to Mars or what? I mean, it's like, Mom, they're teaching me pictures like lip poppers and smile sounds.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
Both of my parents were like, this is going to help her. My brother was the one like, she's always in her classes. That was annoying.
I'm the youngest of five, Parrish. I know exactly what you're talking about. I got all kinds of teasing nonstop. Yeah.
Yeah, it was confusing at the start, I still remember the whole charts.
Isn't that crazy? But why, Parrish? Why do you think it was so much easier to learn lip poppers, tongue tappers than is it a K or an R? Do you have any idea what was going on different about when I teach you K and R versus when I teach you lip popper, tongue tapper? Why do you think it was easier to learn lip popper and tongue tapper than K versus R? It's the same parts of the brain. It's still visual information, still auditory information. It's really quite fascinating, but it's actually very brain science, extremely complicated.
Because it broke it down, and I feel like because they broke it down and explained it in details that just made sense. It's hard to explain. It really
Perfect. I'll give you the word that goes with made sense. What we did was we went to concrete sensory processing. We asked you, what do you see? Because we know the eye can see things just fine. We asked you, what did you hear? Because we know you can hear individual sounds just fine. We asked you, what did you feel your mouth move? And we asked you which parts were moving, because we know that you can identify all those as well. And then we helped you bring seeing plus hearing plus feeling plus moving together. And then we gave it a fifth part, which was a name. And then later we gave it a sixth part, which, okay, then comes the letter. So we taught all these concrete sensory pieces first. And that's what we think the brain does when people don't have dyslexia. It's just automatically picking that up. It's easily done. And it doesn't take a lot of explicit instruction for the brain to build those four parts together. So because of the work of my aunt and uncle, who were a world famous speech therapist and linguist, that's Patricia Conway Lindemood, and she pioneered the first method that's a developmental science approach, which is let's go to concrete sensory inputs and let's mirror what the brain typically experiences when a child learns to read mostly effortlessly without much explicit training, just some good consistent exposure. But when you go to K and R, let's put your mom on the spot, okay, Parrish? Now, Mom, why does the K say, how come the K doesn't say A? Or how come the K doesn't say buh? Or how come the K doesn't say you? What's the logic behind the shape of the letter K?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, because nobody does. There's no answer to that question. It's a trick question. So there is no reason. I mean, this is purely what we call not concrete, it's abstract. Mm-hmm. You know, a Q has a funky shape, a B has a funky shape. Flip them around, they look like each other. A K has a funky, these are abstract symbols to represent speech sounds that come out of your mouth. But lip popper is very concrete. Did your lips pop? Yes or no? It's pretty concrete. You can tell if they do or don't. And so the difference is abstract learning is up here in the developmental cycle and concrete learning is down here. Infants start with concrete learning. They touch, they see, they shove stuff in their mouth to feel it. And there's all kinds of concrete sensory inputs. Then later we go to more abstract learning. So cool, Parrish, that you were feeling like, Mom, I know how to make my mouth make a buzz sound. What are these people doing? Because I do have some tween, teen, and even older adults say, I think you've misunderstood my struggle. I do not have articulation problems. I know how to move my mouth to say gut. Why are you showing me pictures of how to say a tongue scraper gut? I'm like, no, you got to understand. We're going to go back and rewire all four of those sensory parts together. The visual plus the acoustic plus the oral tactile plus the oral kinesthetic. And we're doing it in a fun, gamified way. But we're doing it in such a way that, Parrish, no matter if we give you one, you can give the others. And so it's not a memorization. It's a sensory, experiential, sensory combination that, for whatever reason, some brains do just automatically. As people are speaking to them, it's already starting to happen. Most people build those phonological skills from age 0 to age 4 years old. At 4 years old, they've got all those phonological skills already built. And then the teachers come along and teach the letters and, hey, okay, that makes sense. And they already know this stuff. Now, they don't know lip poppers or tongue tappers, but if we say to them, you know, say the word cat, they say cat. We say, now say cat, don't say k. They'll go act, just like that. No problem. We tested you at the beginning. And Parrish, I believe your scores are down below about the 15th percentile. And you were 12. And so you were missing those early phonological skills. The brain had not built those skills yet. And your instruction from all of your programs, phonographics, any program you did, goes to letters first and goes to sounds second. And that is the reverse of the developmental hierarchy. It's not how the brain works. You never learn how to read and spell a language first and how to speak it later on. It's always the reverse. It's the speech processing, the speaking skills first, the perceiving the words first, and the letters come later on. So that's why the Now Foundations program is so remarkably different. Mom, what did you think? Because you had to do all the detective work. You had to figure this out. And I jokingly tell my kids, people have to figure out, am I lying or not? And for like 38 years, I have to convince people I'm not lying. This is
Yeah.
all science. I have millions of dollars of science backing me up. But we're this little tiny David among these 10 Goliaths who just keep pushing these programs that make some progress, but they never really address all the causal factors. And you're going to be doing those programs for like 3 to 7 years, and you're still not going to be full spell. That's fully spelling. You're still not going to be fluent in reading. You'll have some archaic, slow decoding skills.
Yeah, and I think that's really why we wanted to go with your program, right? Because it did seem like it was immersive. We really were very interested in your immersive program where we would go to your center and we would tackle all of the different modalities. But at that point, her nervous system was not able, with so many of the challenges, right? Her nervous system wasn't able to kind of have this immersive program. So it was really great to be able to have, the little nugget every day that was consistent, and to see so much progress, even at 45 minutes a day, has been amazing. You had something you wanted to say real quick?
No, I was pointing out that you were like,
you fill in the details.
I'm very excited. Yes. No, and it's interesting. I find what you're talking about very fascinating. We've taught our children in a Waldorf fashion for the most part, and especially
sensory, experiential,
a lot of sensory. So we tried, and so when we learned, like, let's say the letter K, we didn't start out with this is a K. We started out with a story, and we built a story around a king, and how to talk about the sounds and that. Of course. We only did it 7 times. But so it's interesting. Parrish, a funny story about Parrish is, I'm thinking about those early years from 0 to 4, how her brain really was wired differently all along. She had a hard time with English. She never had a hard time being understood because she really worked on her expressive skills. And so no one around her understood mostly anything that she said, but it didn't keep her from trying, and it didn't keep her from not talking. She continued to talk even though no one understood what she said, and she was still able to be understood even though no one. And when she was able to use some words, she would tell people. She would say, "Well, my people English isn't very good, but my Unicode English is very good, and my plant English is very good." And so she was very creative, and so we. Kind of blending that academic and that artistic things, really were able to celebrate her more artistic side. But it's such a relief for us to have that academic side now be held, and that there's possibilities for the future. For us, we're homeschoolers. We have wanted to be kind of nomadic homeschoolers for many years. But the English portion has just really kept us home versus traveling the world and all learning together. And so now that she can read, we can go to other countries and we can do a lot of things and learn differently, which we're really excited about.
And it was very surprising when I was able to start, before then I maybe read a little bit, but not too much. And if my mom ever gave me a bigger book, I'm not going to be able to finish this, and had a hard time. And I was working with 3 books in the background of doing it. And when I got to near 12th grade, I started a new book series of a giant book series, and I just demolished that through that.
Okay, you got to explain that to our viewers.
Can I brag on her for just a second? So let's go back and take a look at the timeline. So she started with you just a little bit before the 1st of last year, and so October. Let's say, but between January. So she did a little bit of pre-work, October to January, but from January to June, I think that she read the entire Harry Potter series. Wow. She read
5 other medium, almost big Harry Potter books.
She's reading all of the classics. And something that we thought was impossible for her is now effortless. And we're really grateful.
Well, and the power in part to put numbers behind what you just said, Mom, is when we pre-screen somebody in my Now company for nowprograms.com, for anybody who's watching this video, we do hundreds of free dyslexia screenings per year, if not 1,000 or thousands. I mean, we'll do as many free screenings as people need, and we'll measure your reading accuracy skills. We'll measure your phonological skills. It's not a diagnostic eval. We're not letting you work with a psychologist online. It's just an educational screening. And we also do some baseline measures before we start that Now Foundations program to have a more concrete picture of what can you do by yourself now. And when we think we're at the end, we'll repeat those baselines and where are you at now? At Parrish in the beginning, your ability to read a paragraph that's been Flesch Kincaid leveled as like a grade level 1 or grade level 2, just a way to kind of estimate how hard it is to read that paragraph. We're below the 95th percentile for pretty much anything above a grade level 2. Grade level 2 or above, you were making tons of mistakes. And then at the end of the program, you had completely moved up grade level after grade level after grade level. And you tell the viewers, what grade level did you stop at?
12, I think.
What does that mean? 12 what? Like
12.
End of high school, 12?
Yeah, their ones there were very difficult.
But could you read them?
Yes.
Yeah. So we took you grade by grade. So the fascinating piece of how that Now Foundations program works is we're building your phonological skills simultaneously every day to building your decoding skills, simultaneously to building your spelling skills. And they're asking a few comprehensions, but that's not the comprehension program. And here's why we say that. This part of the brain right here on the left side, that's where the bulk of the reading's happening. And from my work in stroke, we know that there's brain damage here. It could knock out one reading skill and not another. Or if the damage is bigger, it could knock out both reading skills, meaning your ability to sound out words and your ability to memorize words by sight. Because a word like yacht, you can't sound it out and read it correctly. You just have to memorize those letters say yacht. But if there's no damage here and the damage is a little bit behind the ear, fascinating thing happens. You don't lose any reading and spelling skills, but you cannot comprehend what anybody says to you or what you read. So the comprehension system and the reading systems, they're both on this left side predominantly, but they're separate but related. So we have to do a different program to work on the comprehension piece. But we saw you as we systematically kept building your phonological skills from 2 sound words to 3 to 4 to 5. How many syllable words did you go up to? Do you remember? How many syllables when you're doing that segmenting task? Was it 3, 4, or 5?
5, maybe.
Yeah. They would say to you, Parrish, if that says miscongesterly, show me if that says miscongesterly, show me miscongesterly. You'd be like, oh, you took out the L. And we doing it that quick. You built that phonological processing so strong that it didn't matter if it was a 5-syllable word and I changed a phoneme or changed a syllable, a beginning or ending, you could figure out anything that changed. And we had to change that skill because that is your number one ability to catch your own mistakes when reading, or your mistakes when spelling, or your mistakes when speaking. You have to tell, did I add a sound? Did I take away a sound? Did I substitute a sound? Did I repeat a sound? Or did I reverse a sound, syllable, or the whole word? So we're training that, self-checking, self-monitoring accuracy system that's a phonological system simultaneously to training your ability to read and your ability to spell and your ability to read paragraphs.
Yeah.
And like Mom said, within about, less than 10 months time, you went from struggling below grade level 2 to you're 95 to 98% accurate at 12th grade passages. And we didn't do just one passage. You did a whole bunch of 12th grade passages before we stopped. We're like, yep, we're done. Parrish has got the reading brain. And we literally, if we put you in an MRI machine, what we'd see is before, when you're struggling, we'd see more activity on the right side. And it's like the right side's trying to help out. And people misunderstood those images who don't have this brain science background that I have. When they saw kids have right-sided activity, like, oh, their brain's wired differently. Like, well, think about it. If you don't know how to read, why would you expect the brain activity to look the same as somebody who does know how to read? You're not using the same systems because you're actually not doing the same skill. So it's not surprising that the right side is more active on dyslexics and the left side is more active on people who don't have dyslexia. But when I take somebody like you, Parrish, we've rebuilt all those skills. If we put you back in the brain scanner now, guess what the brain activity would look like? What do you think? Right side or left side?
Maybe I think I don't know why I'm thinking like both, but more like finally being right side of reading right.
Well, and you were doing right side more. And so, yes, it would still be a little bit of both, but now the left side would be much more activity in the left side because now you actually are reading. And we've rewired the left side to do what it wasn't doing before. So it's not that dyslexia forces your brain to use a different system. It's just not building the system that you need, and the activities you're getting are too high level. It's kind of like saying we're trying to teach you math by doing algebra first and addition and subtraction later. That's not going to go so well because you kind of need addition and subtraction to be able to do algebra. And so you have to go back to the lower level skills, build those first. And when we've done that, so we've basically rewired your brain to now, if we put you in a brain scanner, your brain's going to look just like someone who does not have dyslexia. That's the superpower of the brain, not dyslexia. Dyslexia really doesn't have any superpowers. The brain has superpowers. It's got the ability to learn and build reading skills if we do one thing. And here's the big medical term. You ready, Parrish? It's called experience-dependent neuroplasticity. That means if we don't give you the right experiences, your brain's not going to build the right skills because it can only build the skills you give it practice with. So if we kept giving you more phonics and more phonics and more phonics, phonics is important. Don't get me wrong. That's an important skill, but you don't learn phonics before you actually learn to judge number in a word, order of sounds, those 5 kind of changes at a spoken level. So phonological awareness comes before phonics. So our program went lower, built that foundational skill first in that Now Foundations program, and then we took you up into reading skills, and then we went to phonics skills, and then you went to sight word skills. There's a whole systematic hierarchy of how we rebuild, rewire, and get that brain operating at its full power.
She was a little concerned, and I think it was an interesting experience to have before she started. She said, well, I want my brain to still be the same. Like when you really are jumping into a program that says you're going to rewire your brain,
I don't want to lose who I am.
I don't want to lose who I am.
Yeah, I was like so confused at the start, like what it was meaning, because you guys couldn't help to explain
because it seems like magic, right? It seems for us people, those of us who aren't trained as a neuroscientist, it seems like magic. And then when you have your child, who you're used to engaging with entirety of the day, taking on those learning experiences, to have them be in a computer, headphones on, where you can't see the interaction, was a little scary as a homeschooling parent, a little bit.
Of course, because I never did any online classes. My brother never wants to do an online class. I don't know why, but I'm like, yes, I want to do the online class instead of doing going to a place.
Yeah. But we've been very pleased, and all joking aside about all the the things that we don't understand, it has been just such a fabulous experience.
So in your mind, did it change Parrish's reading skills, and how much?
1,000%. It's changed her reading skills. She went from, when we would go out to eat, she wouldn't be able to read a menu this time last year. And so it, like I said, it really has changed.
I still feel very shy about reading a menu, and I'm like, oh, wait, what? But I'm like, I can read it perfectly fine, and I can actually tell my parents what I want instead of having them always help me.
And something like that can't be undervalued, right? To be able to go out, and I think our hearts really went out to her struggle, right? Because it wasn't just a struggle with reading, it was a struggle with living. So now she's able to live like her peers, and we're able to look at traveling internationally, and I hope that, a few years from now, we can check back in with you. That you'll be able to say, well, yeah, she doesn't just speak English now, but now she speaks French. And, we've been to a high school in Paris, or whatever the things, like the world really is our oyster, and the opportunity we have.
Absolutely. And Parrish, how many languages does your mom speak? Have you counted them?
I don't know.
I actually studied languages. And
I know. I read the whole profile, Ms. Mom. How many languages do you speak?
6. And so
that's your genetics. You've got family genetics for super language powers.
She does.
But all of those languages require phonological processing. So if we hadn't changed this skill now, you would not have the opportunity to as easily say, I want to learn Spanish. I want to learn French. I want to learn German. I want to take on the big, super complicated language of Russian, but you now have the potential to be able to do that. And that's even more fun because you can do it with mom.
Yeah. And even if she wants to do none of that, right? We're excited for her to just feel at ease in her life, and confident. She has a level of confidence now that it was inside of her all along, but she was just getting stopped. And so we're very excited for her and whatever she chooses to pursue, and as many things as she chooses.
And Parrish, here's how we couch what mom just said. We say competence builds confidence. What does that mean?
Being able to know something gives you the more comfort about doing more things.
So then what's going to happen with your shyness with reading that you're still feeling right now, understandably so? Because let's say you started to learn to read at 6 and you're still struggling at 12. That's 6 years of struggle. So for 6 years, your brain's been fooled into thinking it's not very good at reading. And your personality and your sense of who I am has been fooled into thinking that my brain doesn't do reading very well. But what's going to happen in the next 6 years to your belief about yourself?
Well, betting, because, wait.
Do you think you'll still be shy about reading in 6 years from now? Why not?
I think I'd be totally comfortable because now I actually have an idea about reading.
Yeah.
Learned it better.
And can you do it?
Yes.
And could you do it before?
Not really.
Yeah, not really. It was a super struggle. And that means higher anxiety, higher frustration, higher emotional stress. It was just draining on your emotions. I mean, there's all kinds of negative things for kids struggling. And that's why it's really important for me in this podcast. We say genetic dyslexia does not give people superpowers. People can actually create them by working on them. But there's a huge cost to have only one superpower of maybe out of the box thinking and 3 or 4 deficits. Those all take a huge toll. And yeah, we could try to get the workplace to not ask us to do those skills. We're going to create jobs where you don't have to spell because you're not a good speller, but that still doesn't actually replace the person's self-esteem of being able to read, be able to spell, and be able to make movies in their head. So we know the brain's got the potential to do all of that. If we give a human brain the right practice, we have the best chance to build the right skills. So, Mom, what do you think's happening to Parrish's confidence?
We've definitely seen it increase, right? Her confidence has increased across the board. And I'm excited for the programs that come next, because I think that will also, it can continue to build upon itself. So we're very excited to see. It's grown quite a bit.
So how would you describe her reading skills when she was 9, 10, 11? What were her reading skills like then?
0. I mean, it was 0. It would last the day that we would learn it, which would be really exciting, but we would wake up the next day and it would all be gone. And so that has to be, I know that, my husband is a psychologist, and we've worked really hard with the emotional bits too, right?
Yes.
And even though we have a lot of skill with working that and have really held the emotional part as much as we could, ourselves and outside sources, it still has been a struggle. So I'm excited to see with the skills that she has, what'll change and how it'll grow.
And how would you characterize her reading skills today? And again, we're telling people, because this is what people say to me, is like, this sounds like snake oil. Everybody takes 3 to 7 years. Like, no, you said it took less than 10 months. And what happened in less than 10 months?
It is absolutely miraculous, And like I said, from our perspective, right, to have
it was also harder for them to hear, because I decided mics.
We're so proud of her for the work that she's put in. Those times.
She had to do the work.
The only days that she's taken off were, I think, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and 1 or 2 days where we were traveling in between different locations and we couldn't do the class. Other than that, she put in
very many different areas. One time I think we did in our car, because we had we're driving, and I'm like,
and you look for McDonald's and the free Wi-Fi.
Sure. Starbucks is our go-to for sure. But so on our end, it does seem miraculous because all we see, is 45 minutes a day. She's got her headphones on. She looks at the screen and she's engaging, and she's pretty happy about the engagement. Right. The tutors that she's had so far have been just absolutely fabulous. It's so funny. She likes one, but then she'll get another one, and she likes them a little bit better and a little bit better. They've grown and grown.
It's all different, so that's why I'm having my best mood. So I'm usually in my best mood because I try my best.
Yeah, and I don't know what that would be like for parents whose children are in school, right? And they are one step removed. Even if you are really involved as a school parent, you're still one step removed from the education process. So this for us is the first experience for us of being so removed from an educational process, which made it seem extra miraculous for us just to have to see the shifts and to see, as we're traveling, to have her start to be able to read, road signs. Or oh my gosh, those gold, like you're talking about McDonald's, we did eat at McDonald's for her first time this time last year when we were traveling. But to see those golden arches, but then to have her be able to read, oh, that says McDonald's.
Yeah.
The kind of these or whatever.
I did kind of know that, but yeah, for like complicated restaurants, very many.
Menus are a challenge. They're all novel words many times.
Yeah.
So, how about spelling? What has happened with spelling? It's a harder system for the brain. Spelling is like 1,000 times harder for the brain to do than reading.
Yeah.
We didn't change any of your visual perceptual. We didn't change any of your visual memory. And we didn't change any of your visual motor skills online. We can do that in the clinics. In the clinics, the OTs are trained to change visual perceptual, visual memory recognition, visual plus motor skills. And those are important parts of spelling. But if those systems are strong for you and we change your phonological processing, you'll see sight word spelling and phonetic spelling equally grow. If we see the phonetic spelling grow, but the sight word spelling doesn't grow, that tells us we need to find some time to do some OT work with an OT who's properly trained, what we call a sensory integration approach to rebuilding these other parts of the brain's processing systems. So what's happened for you so far, Parrish? What's getting easier with spelling and what's not?
Well, I feel like just like I feel like it came easier to just figure out what letters or words, like what words and letters go together, and like every little detail. Like, this is very interesting. I was actually very excited to learn the little bit more detail for words and other stuff, for sure.
And Mom, what do you see happening?
I'm not the best on writing.
That's a higher level skill. Writing's it's like we've got 2 programs before we even actually do writing in that nowprograms.com company. Our online tutors will not do writing with you if we haven't changed your phonological reading and spelling skills, and we haven't changed your memory comprehension skills.
Well, I for sure became better with typing.
Nice.
I had no typing skills or any computer skills before this. I do have them now.
And I think that just goes along with being able to recognize letters, which she wasn't able to do before. And so it seems, again, miraculous. But I've noticed as far as spelling, what's cute is that she's correcting her older brother on occasion with spelling. And he'll say, what is this? How to spell this?
He actually just started with a book about this. And he does it for some time. And I'm like, he doesn't know that yet?
Sometime that you get to shine with knowledge you have that he doesn't have yet. Well, and you already learned some things, Parrish, and even your mom with her linguistic background, if we had primed you, and sometimes the tutors will do this, go home and ask your mom, why do you spell fudge with a DGE, but you spell cage with a G? What's the reason for that? And most parents are like, because it's right. I mean, I don't know why. That's how you do it. And like, no, actually, let me explain it to you. If the vowel's a short vowel and it says it's sound, it's going to be a DGE. And the vowel's a long vowel, when it say its name, it's going to be, and these are these phonics rules that you learn later on. They weren't the first thing we trained because they're not the most important. They're a later piece to kind of get a little more finesse, a little more depth of knowledge about our language system.
Yep. I remember I still sometimes like forget them, like, oh, wait, right. Oh,
but it's given her access to information that her slightly older brother doesn't have
and
yet.
I still remember them. It just will take me a time for ones that are a little bit older or a little bit less known, but are very useful.
Gotcha. Well, let me throw up a question here, Mom and Parrish. Kimberly has a question for you guys because her son's in the NF program and he's at about less than 160. And she wanted you to clarify, did you say that towards the end of the program, more skills started becoming stronger? Because she's noticing that if he doesn't know a word right now, he'll guess about 5 words that are kind of close, which means he's probably changing the ending or mixing 1 or 2 sounds. We're really working to get that accurate. So as Parrish got further along in the program, were other skills starting to change or were things becoming more automatic for her?
Yes.
Okay. Very much so.
Very much.
Yeah. And I think hand in hand with the confidence, I think that the confidence level as she progressed.
And not as scared of being wrong. And yes, some of the more easy things the starting things got harder and harder. But I still had a very easy time going through them when they actually got harder because I understood them very much more.
And I think
once the anxiety started to go down and settle, it made learning so much easier.
Nice.
Learning anything became easier because there was a level of capacity.
Yeah. And Parrish, let me ask you this question as like an instructor. If I was your instructor and I saw you guessing at a word, give me 5 or 6 guesses, what do you think I would say to you to do? Do you think I'd tell you to keep guessing or ask you to use your plan?
Use plan.
Yeah. Why? Why would you say, why is your instructor, why are they trained to say, Parrish, what's your reading plan?
Because, wait, are you asking why or?
Yeah, why would they want you to use your reading plan and not just guess? Which one's more likely to help you become accurate, correct?
The reading plan, because it shows most of the things I would need to know and keep on seeing the thing makes a more I still have a hard time saying words or like
But you're catching them. You're realizing you're struggling and you're actually stopping to fix them. Whereas before you might have said them wrong and didn't even know you said them wrong.
Unicorn English.
No, my gosh. Because it just gives an idea, backfiring my mind again to remember what was going on, and I could then figure it out.
Yeah. And so when you went through that program, that Now Foundations program, and you're on with the nowprograms.com instructor, and they're taking you through each step, one of the things they're doing is showing you, now that you're better at sounding stuff out, here's a plan of how to sound out single syllable words. Here's a plan of how to sound out words that are 2, 3, 4, 5, or I don't care if it's 10 syllables, the same plan applies. And we didn't have to teach you all kinds of syllable types. You don't have to memorize stuff. We're not drilling stuff into you. We're actually experiential, helping you discover and understand what you can do, how to do it, which gives you the best set of skills to keep sounding words out. And our aim is not guessing. Our aim is accuracy. So we want you to use that plan, figure out the first vowel sound, second vowel sound, how many vowel sounds, figure out how to break it into syllables, say the first syllable, say the second syllable, say the third syllable, blend it together. And then what's the last step of that plan? Do you remember what they want you to do at the very end? They want you to ask yourself what?
I'm like listening to you.
It's a lot, I know. And I talked a little fast. So when you're playing, you'd say the first syllable, second syllable, third syllable. You blend them together and you said a word. How do they want you to verify if you knew you were right or not? They want you to double check it or just say, nope, I'm good enough?
Check it.
Yeah. Then that last step usually says, am I right? Does it match? And they really want you to be sure that you can prove to yourself that, yeah, I know that says this, that says this, that says this, and all three of those together, okay, they have to say that.
Yeah.
We're just giving you phonetic words.
Yeah.
That is, I think, the main thing that we hear on the parent end on the other side of she goes through the process. Am I right? Am I correct? Is that is that right? And so it's been a fun little thing for us to hear.
It's a lot of powerful reasoning skills. So what Patricia Lindemuth would say about this isn't a reading program. It's not even a language program. It's a reasoning program, how to think about language and how to actually be able to tease it apart. How many sounds? What's the order of the sounds? How many syllables? What's the order of the syllables? And did I blend them together correctly? So we're changing all these systems simultaneously, where it's changing speaking skills. And over time, Parrish, what should happen is your ability to think of the word you want to say and the ability to say it should become easier and easier, because you're getting more and more practice with recognizing it doesn't sound right and picking up on, okay, I think I said this syllable wrong. And then let me get my mouth to say it this way. And you're really correcting yourself without mom having to say, let me tell you how to say that. Because she's not going to go with you to college. If you go off to a regular college, you got to do it yourself. So our goal all along the way is independent reading skills, independent thinking skills, and you're actually been building reasoning skills at the same time. Cause and effect, determination of what's going on, just really discernment of what's happening, what's likely to happen. There's all kinds of thinking, reasoning, building on top of what you're happening with your reading skills. So what's happened next? You guys finish the program. You're done with that reading program. We will do no more reading work with you ever in terms of how to sound out words and read and spell. If the sight word spelling, mom, doesn't improve, you're going to have to consider OT. And the only way to find out is you do an OT eval later on. If she's still forgetting, is it, which one is thought, which one is through, because they look a lot alike. That's telling you there's a visual component that's not really anchoring quite as well. And the properly trained OTs, like the ones at the Morris Center or a couple other places that have developmental OTs trained in sensory integration approach, have the expertise to strengthen those visual memory, visual recognition, visual motor skills.
Yeah. We're looking forward to each of the next pegs, looking forward to knocking them down. We still see, deficiencies here or there. And especially as I think you could tell with the speaking, she's got a lot to say, right? And sometimes there's a hiccup in getting it out. And so we want to help her.
My brain actually has the rethinking of not me like concentrating on it. If I say a word wrong, it is starting to gear itself without me having to push it.
Good. So not as difficult as what I'd say you're saying. It's not as hard anymore to get it to say it properly.
Yeah. Even if I have a hiccup, at least the gears will do it by themselves still.
Good.
Easier.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're looking forward to what all of the other programs that you all offer to meet her needs. That there is something available that does work. It feels like a miracle for us. No, all the snake oil, all the magic, all the miracles, and it's working. We're have been back and forth about whether to put our son through the program as well, even though he is having success academically.
Right.
Why wouldn't we as parents support him to be able to have ease through his life? My husband and I both didn't have any treatment or anyone address the issues. We didn't even understand that we had attention deficit disorder and dyslexia until we were adults. And so to be able to have, as parents, the opportunity to meet our children's needs and have something that this struggle is good, right? Some kind of struggles are good, but I think that reasonable, right? But our kids can experience it in a different way and not having to struggle. Absolutely, that would be the way we'd want to go. So,
and Mom, what you're talking about too is we call it the Now programs, or that nowprograms.com website explains. We do empowerment, but we also do enrichment. Empowerment's for those deficits are already there. Let's take these weaker skills and make them stronger. But the strong is already okay, but we really don't feel like they're at that person's full potential. You got a Ferrari engine, but it's really running on low octane fuel and not really putting out the power it's capable of. You want to tune it up. And so sometimes nowprograms.com does enrichment, which means take strong skills and just get them to the child's full potential. Right. And then you're really operating at full efficiency. And I'm a prime example. When I started working in this field when I was 19 years old, I got put through Patricia Lindemood's idea about mental imagery, about how mental imagery makes better comprehension, better expression. And after I got through that training program, being trained as an instructor, I was like, why didn't anybody tell me how to do this when I was like 16 or 6 even? Not when I'm 19, I'm already done with all my early school years, because that ability to know how to better comprehend, how to make movies, how to retrieve movies, which is what you're doing now, Parrish, in that second program. You're working on those movie making skills. That just accelerated my ability to choose my own path, choose my own course, take a crazy idea to go get a PhD, things like that I probably would not have done otherwise if I didn't have all those extra tools. So
my husband and I both have experienced quite a few barriers, and we won't be able to do everything for our kids, but if we could take some of those barriers away, it seems like an absolute no-brainer for us. And so to give our children, our next generation, just a little bit better than what we had, and a little bit better understanding, and hopefully maybe a lot better.
Exactly. And so, Parrish, we got about 2 minutes left. Give us your last, what would you say to some other 12, 13-year-old who's thinking, Mom, I'm not learning those stupid pictures of the mouth. That is for babies. One, can you change reading skills? Because many people with dyslexia think you can't change it. It's going to be lifelong. Your reading will never get better. Your brain is hardwired differently, and it cannot learn to read. What would your answer be to that?
Oh, okay. This is tricky.
Yeah. You think your brain's hardwired and it can't learn to read?
No.
How do you know that?
Because you can.
Because I can now. That there's a lot of other people who have these exact same problems and don't have them any longer. And if anybody else tried asking a question that they had a problem with, and it's in my range of telling them maybe a little bit more than needed detail that might have helped them in the future. It just helps in the long run so much longer with the extra bit. It's not even extra, it's just perfect.
Fantastic. And Mom, one piece from you gave us the phrase that Parrish's progress was just miraculous. Mm-hmm. So that nowprograms.com led to miraculous results for Parrish. What does that mean? What is miraculous?
It means that I believe in science and I believe in miracles.
Yeah. And so the people who say that dyslexia's brains are hardwired, they learn differently, you got to find a different approach.
Absolutely.
Is that what we did for Parrish, or do we actually just do what the typical brain does now?
Yeah, it's shocking. I didn't understand, and I'm so glad that I understand so much more now, and that there is something available to help our children. I couldn't imagine our lives a year ago to see what it is right now.
Fabulous.
It's nothing short of miraculous.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank
Parrish, you. Mom, we really appreciate your time today. Really appreciate you sharing your own personal dyslexia success story. And Parrish is one of the piece. I'm dyslexic, but I got help at age 5. So I got what's called prevention. And so now you can do what I did, which is you can go chart your own course. It doesn't matter that we didn't change those skills until you're 12, 13. You've got stronger skills now. They will never go away unless you do one thing. If you stop using them, you will lose them. But I'm pretty sure you're not going to stop reading, because I know you already read Harry Potter and all these other big book series. So,
I'm still trying my best to read more and find out what I like doing and just working on it by myself, of just doing it.
Because you can, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you both so much.
Yeah.
We'll be back in 2 weeks for another Dyslexia Success Stories. Please consider joining us then. Please share this with other people who do not understand that brain scientists really do know how to empower the brain. Take a young teen like Parrish and change her from literally a non-reader into she can easily read 12th grade books. And it took us only less than about 10 months. It wasn't years of intervention. And Mom and Dad could not spend any more money on reading interventions. It won't be necessary. We're moving on to other skills, advancing comprehension, advancing writing, and much to Parrish's demise, or surprise rather, advancing math skills too. Here it comes. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.